Listen to that sound, the bone-chilling howl of a winter gale tearing through the endless boreal forests. But what if the deepest, most biting cold of the northern wilderness wasn't just a force of nature? What if it was a hungry, malevolent intelligence, an ancient spirit of insatiable famine? In the vast snow-choked landscapes of North America, the Algonquian peoples speak of such a thing. Their legends are not stories told for entertainment, but dire warnings passed down through millennia with hushed reverence. They speak of the Wendigo, a name that invokes a primal, unfathomable terror born of ice, isolation, and the most forbidden of human acts. This entity is not a species, it is not born, it is made. The Wendigo is a horrifying transformation, a corruption of the human spirit into a monstrous vessel of eternal hunger. The lore speaks of two primary paths to this damnation, two gateways to becoming this eldritch terror of the frozen wilds. The first path is a tragic, involuntary descent. When the winter is at its most brutal and starvation gnaws at the very soul, a person may be forced to break the ultimate taboo, cannibalism. This act of consuming human flesh cracks open the spirit, allowing a primeval, ravenous entity to seep in, possessing and twisting its new host into a grotesque mockery of its former self. But there is a second, far more sinister path, a voluntary one, an individual consumed by greed, power, or a desire for vengeance can seek out this dark spirit, making a pact. They invite the entity in, trading their humanity for arcane power and an immortal existence fueled by an endless, agonizing hunger for the flesh of their own kind. The physical result of this transformation is a thing of nightmares. The Wendigo is an emaciated giant, often described as standing over 15 feet tall. Its skin is the color of ash and decay, stretched so taut over its colossal frame that every bone is visible, a walking skeleton animated by pure malice. It is a paradox of immense size and grotesque starvation. Its most horrifying feature, however, is its face. From deep within sunken sockets, its eyes glow with a cold, predatory light. It has no lips, its mouth forever pulled back in a jagged, unending grimace of agony and hunger. This is not the face of a mere beast. It is the permanent, screaming echo of the humanity it consumed and lost. This gaunt frame is a deception, hiding an unfathomable, supernatural power. The Wendigo possesses inhuman strength, capable of tearing through trees and hunters with equal ease. It moves with a terrifying speed, gliding over the deepest snowdrifts without a sound, a spectral predator that leaves no trail until it is far too late. Yet, its physical prowess is not its most terrifying weapon. Its most insidious power is far more arcane. The Wendigo is a perfect mimic, a master of vocal luring. It can replicate the cries of a lost child, the panicked shout of a friend, or the gentle, loving call of a family member with flawless precision. Imagine being lost in a blizzard, the cold seeping into your bones when you hear a familiar voice calling your name. Hope surges. You call back, stumbling through the blinding snow toward the sound. But you are not walking toward rescue. You are walking into the grasp of an ancient evil that hunts not just with claw and tooth, but with your own heart, turning your deepest affections into its most lethal bait. The whispers of this boreal terror are not confined to ancient sagas. They echo in court documents, in historical records from as recently as the early 20th century. Consider the chilling case of Jack Fiddler, an OG Cree shaman whose profound knowledge of the old ways put him on a collision course with the modern world. When he was tried by Canadian authorities for murder, his defense was not one of denial, but of duty. He claimed the people he had dispatched were not human, not anymore. They had succumbed to the Wendigo's grasp, their humanity consumed by that insatiable, icy hunger. Fiddler saw himself not as a killer, but as a guardian, a hunter of these transformed horrors, performing a necessary, merciful act to protect his community from an unfathomable evil. His testimony is a stark, tangible bridge between ancient lore and documented history. But what if we've been looking at the Wendigo all wrong? What if the visceral tales of cannibalism are a grotesque, literal interpretation of a far more profound warning? The Algonquian elders speak not of a monster of flesh, but of a spirit of excess. An entity born from insatiable greed and consumption in any form. This perspective shifts everything. The true horror isn't just the act of eating human flesh. It's the spiritual state of endless, gnawing hunger that can never be satisfied. It is the void that consumes the soul long before the body acts. This is a far more insidious and terrifying entity, a sickness of the spirit that can take root anywhere, in any heart. In this light, the Wendigo serves a profound ecological and spiritual role. It is a manifestation of the land's own immune response, a primeval antibody that arises to purge a sickness, the sickness of unchecked human greed. It is a balancing agent, a terrifying consequence made manifest. Think of it as a spiritual predator that hunts not the weak, but the pathologically avaricious. It appears in times and places where humanity's consumption becomes a wound upon the world, where the balance between taking and giving has been shattered. The Wendigo is the embodiment of nature's recoil against those who take too much. Its presence is a sign, a warning that the natural order has been violated. The spectral form haunting the forest is the consequence of a deeper imbalance, a spiritual decay that poisons the land itself. It is the earth's cry of pain, given a monstrous, terrifying form. This brings us to the mechanics of the Wendigo fever, the spiritual contagion that spreads its curse. This is not a pathogen in the way we understand it. It spreads not through blood or saliva, but like a dark idea, an eldritch whisper that finds purchase in the minds of those teetering on the edge of desperation or greed. It begins subtly. It preys on the isolated, the starving, the forgotten. The first symptom is an internal battle, a war waged in the soul. Chilling dreams of impossible feasts plague the starving. The cold seeps not just into the bones, but into the heart, turning it to a shard of ice. The afflicted person becomes withdrawn, their eyes reflecting the vast, empty winter. They begin to see others not as kin, but as sustenance, their humanity slowly being erased by the encroaching, all-consuming hunger. This is the horrifying transformation, the slow, agonizing surrender to the insatiable void within. And so, the trail of the ancient terror grows cold, vanishing into the snows of history. But this is where the investigation truly begins. Because the most unfathomable revelation is not that the Wendigo existed, but that it never left. It simply evolved. The spirit of insatiable hunger, once confined to the frozen boreal forests, has found a new, more fertile hunting ground. It is no longer a singular, gaunt figure stalking the blizzards. Its essence, that eldritch cold, now animates the faceless, sprawling entities of our modern world. It is the gnawing hunger of a corporation that consumes its competition, the relentless drive for growth that levels forests, the bottomless appetite that hollows out communities, leaving behind a spiritual frostbite. The ancient curse has gone global. The skeletal beast was merely an avatar, a physical symptom of a much deeper spiritual sickness. The true entity, the arcane idea of endless, self-devouring consumption, has simply shed its skin. It has found a more perfect, more terrifying host, the very systems we have built. It no longer needs to hunt lone travelers. It has convinced us to hunt ourselves. This terrifying metamorphosis explains so much of our modern world. Consider the profound sense of isolation felt by millions, even while being hyper-connected through a digital web. It's a spiritual emptiness, a hunger for genuine connection that is never satisfied. This is the echo of the Wendigo's curse, manifesting not in the gut, but in the soul. Think of the pervasive anxiety of resource scarcity, the psychological burnout from a culture of endless work with no true reward. These are the modern symptoms of Wendigo psychosis. The ancient terror preyed on the starving body to capture the spirit. Today, it preys on the starving spirit directly, promising fulfillment but delivering only a deeper, more profound emptiness. This new form presents an even more terrifying challenge. The ancient lore was clear. The Wendigo's only weakness was its heart of ice, a frozen core that had to be shattered. But how do you find the heart of a decentralized, global ideology? How do you shatter the core of an entity that exists everywhere and nowhere at once? The shaman's fire and the hunter's silver bullet are useless against this new beast. Those were weapons for a tangible monster, a singular threat you could track and confront. They offer no defense against a creature that lives in algorithms, stock market projections, and the ceaseless whispers of advertising that tell us we are not enough, that we must have more. And yet, the Algonquian peoples who first named this terror left us the most crucial piece of intelligence. They understood that the Wendigo was not just a monster one encountered, but a path one could choose to walk. It was a conscious decision to surrender to insatiable greed, to value the self above the community, to consume without thought. The legend's final, echoing power is its function as an arcane mirror. It forces us to confront the abyss within ourselves. The next time you feel that gnawing, inexplicable hunger for something more wealth, more status, more validation, pause, listen closely. You might just hear the whisper of an ancient, boreal wind. For the Wendigo is not merely a creature of myth. It is an enduring question posed to humanity across the millennia. It asks, in the chilling silence between heartbeats, what is it that you truly hunger for? And what are you willing to become to satisfy it? The answer defines not only our own path, but the very world we create. In the early 20th century, ethnographers and psychologists encountered stories of this boreal terror and attempted to confine it within the sterile boundaries of science. They documented a tragic affliction, a condition some termed Wendigo psychosis, characterized by an overwhelming compulsion towards cannibalism and the paranoid delusion of transforming into the monster itself. It was an attempt to pathologize a primal force, to reduce an ancient entity to a mere symptom of starvation and isolation. This clinical diagnosis offered a convenient narrative. It suggested the Wendigo was not a tangible beast, but a manifestation of human desperation born from the brutal realities of winter survival. The lore was dismissed as a cautionary tale, a psychological ghost haunting the minds of those pushed to the brink. A simple, rational explanation for an unfathomable horror. But this explanation is profoundly incomplete. It fails to account for the core of the legend, the creature's otherworldly nature. No psychological condition can explain the supernatural speed, the colossal strength, or the reports of a spectral form that moves between the trees like freezing mist. The physical evidence and consistent eyewitness accounts point not to a mental breakdown, but to an encounter with something truly, terrifyingly real. This has led modern cryptozoologists to a chilling hypothesis. The Wendigo is not merely a creature of flesh and bone, but an adaptable, parasitic entity. It is a spirit of insatiable hunger, and in the modern age, it has found a new, far more abundant food source than isolated hunters. It feeds on the voracious, unending consumption that defines our global civilization. Think of it, a hunger that is never satisfied, a constant need to devour more, regardless of the cost. This is the driving force behind the clear-cutting of ancient forests, the strip mining of mountains, the poisoning of entire ecosystems. The spirit of the Wendigo has become intertwined with the engine of modern industry, its ancient hunger now fueling a planetary-scale consumption. The chilling consequence is a world that begins to reflect the creature's own accursed state. The more our civilization consumes, the more hollow it becomes, perpetually starved for the next resource, the next conquest. We are caught in a feedback loop of insatiable desire, a global wasting sickness that mirrors the curse of the creature itself, which grows ever more emaciated with every soul it devours. Its presence is no longer confined to the whispering pines of the north. The Wendigo's shadow now stretches over boardrooms, stock exchanges, and resource extraction sites across the globe. It is an arcane parasite that has latched onto the collective soul of humanity, thriving on our boundless ambition and our refusal to recognize limits. And this is the most terrifying revelation of all. This modern spirit of greed isn't a metaphor. It is the ancient entity's new hunting ground. The primeval terror of the boreal forest has evolved, learning to feed not on individual bodies, but on the spiritual and ecological lifeblood of an entire species. It has found a way to turn our greatest strengths, our industry, our ambition, into its personal feast. The ancient Algonquian prophecies were never just about the taboo of cannibalism. They were a warning about a far deeper cosmic imbalance, the principle of taking without giving back, of consumption without gratitude or restraint. They foretold that such an imbalance would inevitably summon a spirit of pure, unending hunger to restore a brutal, terrifying equilibrium. Therefore, the enduring horror of the Wendigo is not the fear of being stalked in a frozen wilderness. It is the dawning realization that its insatiable spirit may have already infected the very systems we rely upon for survival. The true terror is that our modern world, in its relentless pursuit of more, has become the perfect vessel for this ancient, boreal nightmare.